Look, a lot of people have been following the antics of this man on Twitter for a long time before the Colombia protests, even maybe around when it started. But I mean, he recently earned it this week. But let's get to the graphic. Most importantly,
okay, so he is an assistant professor, I think in economics or in the business school at Columbia, and has been harassing students at Columbia all along, who Palestinian students or students for justice for Palestine, any organizations on campus who are speaking out for Palestinian rights and against this genocide, calling them Hamas and terrorists, like pointing megaphones in their faces. But it's only ramped up because last week, I think to the day, was when Columbia started their tent city, right? That was last week. They started erecting tents on the quad at Columbia and basically it's for divestment. They want Columbia, which is, a huge, has huge financial stake in Israeli companies. They want to divest. They've also, though, I will say, been talking about Columbia as a slum landlord. Columbia is one of the biggest landowners in all of New York City. And they also want them to stop gentrifying the area. It's in Spanish Harlem. Stop gentrifying the area and kicking people out. So they've kind of married both of those, projects together. Anyway, so our worst of the world, most recently, and then we'll go back, but this was the latest thing he did, which basically is asking for death of these students.
I know it's painful to say this. I know there's a fraud history in the United States with U.S. colleges, but it's time to bring in the National Guard because the NYPD is in over their head. Obviously, the President Shafiq and the administration are unwilling to do anything about this.
So the fraught history is the National Guard being brought into Kent State to deal with the student protesters who were protesting against Vietnam in 1970. They killed 4 people. I think they injured 9 more. 4 days later, National Guard was brought to the University of New Mexico, where they bayoneted like a dozen students. Nobody was killed, but it got violent. And those are moments in history that are looked back on with horror, that's how we would treat student protesters who are protesting against a war that everybody agrees now was wrong.
Right. And clearly his argument is about the safety of a Jewish person on campus, right? Like they're somehow going to be targeted because of this, right? But we've all seen that that's not the case. I mean, we saw that the Jewish person that put out the video, the husband of his wife, saying how brave she was. She was standing out there with the shirt that said Jew, and she's turning around, and people are like, nobody's within 100 feet of her.
Protest at Yale, right?
Oh, yeah. That wasn't Columbia. You're right.
But it's
it's the same situation. Exactly. But even behind her is somebody holding a Jews for Peace sign. Like, so clearly there is not this aggression towards Jewish people. And even the Zionists aren't under threat. Like, this is allowed to go on. This is the debate that should happen on college campuses. You should have freedom of speech. You should be able to put your protest sign up and say some stupid shit. No, you shouldn't be able to put up a Nazi slogan, but there are absolutists that would say even that is okay. I wouldn't. I would punch them in the face, but that's a different level.
Yeah, I mean, there's different things that can be expected on campus and not. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much a free speech absolutist, so I do think that people should pretty much be able to say whatever they want to say and then suffer the consequences, which might be a fist to the face. But yeah, so what was interesting about that, the lady who was so brave that her husband posted it, and then another person on Twitter, player in the game, posted the woman's husband, who had said how brave she was, goes up to the same group of peacefully protesting kids. And again, trying to agitate, like getting in their faces and with his camera, like right in their faces. And one of the protesters is trying to de-escalate. He's like, do you need some food or water? We'll get you what you need. Like they are trying to, they just cannot stand the fact that anybody is criticizing Israel's actions. I mean, that's it. They just want to silence any dissent. So,
yeah, I mean, and obviously some of it is like you've got a mix of true believers that really believe what they're saying. There's some that's tied in with economic interests.
Right.
You know, with him, it's probably both, but I mean, there has to be an internal struggle, and your brain makes you pick a side on a lot of these things. Like his whole life, he grew up learning that Palestinians are not equal people. They're lesser people.
IDF soldier.
You know, his dad was very, let's see, I pulled a clip on his dad. Where is that?
I know, I can't see anything. Oh, here, you're right here. His father is a weapons manufacturer, right?
Yeah, I mean, they got like, they won awards for some stuff they did for AR-15 guns,
right,
for example. But, you know, the connection, like Eli and his wife, his dad, and
his father and the wife, sponsored.
They sponsored a center in Tel Aviv where Benjamin Netanyahu was fitted for a pacemaker last year. So this is a direct connection to Netanyahu. It's the wealth elite. This is not just some Joe professor. There's more to this guy's story than they're letting on.
And he is harassing kids at Columbia. Actually, Jewish students just issued a complaint to Columbia saying he makes them feel unsafe. He has called them Judenrats and capos and is harassing them. He doxes people, right? There have been all of these. So that's like the cameras that they are sometimes. So the one time that they said Zionists aren't welcome here was within their protest. And so there have been like, and they'll just clip those words, right? Where they're like, nope, don't let the Zionists in. But it's into their space. He tried to start his own protest, and Columbia campus said, yes, you may, but you can't do it right where you can't do your counter protest right where it's going to inflame even more chaos.
Classic Hasbro style. They are hiding the truth knowingly. Like he has to know that he's misinforming people about the incidents and how it happened.
Yeah.
The Zionist quote was taken out of context.
Right.
He's spreading it knowingly.
Right.
So it's hard to believe anything the guy says. And that's when you look into almost anything these Zionists say, I mean, honestly, it's a lot of garbage.
It's a lot of garbage. And also the racism and bigotry is so clear. Like he took video of Muslims praying at one point and said, can you believe it? This is Columbia's campus happening now. And all it was like this very peaceful prayer moment of prayer, right? There was no problem at all.
It's almost like he's saying, look at these actual Palestinians free from behind their prison
Muslims
wall
on our campus.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's his problem. They're Muslims who feel free to pray on campus. Meanwhile, there have been Jews who have put out, Shabbat. We're having Shabbat tonight within this little, protest. We're having Passover together. It's, they are actually getting along very well. They know that Muslims and Jews and Christians and atheists and everybody can live together. So here was their Shabbat Shalom in that same space that he says is making Jews feel unsafe. Then a few days later, first night of Passover, this is actually Simone Zimmerman, who was one of the producers of Israelism, that documentary, which is pretty fantastic if you can check it out. But it is primarily peaceful until people come in and try to agitate. And even when the president of Columbia called in the NYPD on her own students and now faculty, they came and they arrested over 100 people. But even the NYPD said that the protesters were peaceful. The students that were arrested were peaceful, offered no resistance whatsoever, and were saying what they wanted to say in a peaceful manner. That's Chief John Chell of the NYPD saying that.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost the argument with the public. The public knows this is right. Young kids, especially in college, know this is right.
Yeah.
They're not going to, I mean, the beauty is it's spreading to other colleges. It's spreading.
Yep.
And
spreading. Yep.
It really is going to go beyond Palestine, I think, at some point. But until Palestine is free, that's going to be the central focus. But
yeah,
they're building the next Occupy by letting by all the pushback from the government is making everybody say, you know what, we can't handle this fascism. We have to fight. We have to fight.
Yeah, we can't just sit back and take it. And what's been really interesting is like bus drivers in New York today, I think it was today, refused to take the new group of people that that the NYPD was arresting, which I also don't really understand why they're arresting them when they say they're totally peaceful, but okay. But there was bus drivers who said that they refused to help them take them down to the jail to book them. Yeah. Robert Kraft, you know, one of the Patriots owner, one of the billionaire donors to Columbia. He went to Columbia, pulled money from Columbia and convinced some of his billionaire friends to do the same. He, just as a reminder, was among the hundreds charged in a Florida sex traffic sting. And yet somehow he's been on every cable news network with, you know, CNN and MSNBC talking about the anti-Semitism. What?
Yeah, he's pulling his money from Columbia because they're not being racist and prisonous enough. Yeah. Prisonous, not a word.
He likes his minorities as sex slaves, where he can pay the owner to have sex with exploited women.
Right. Yeah. So look, the Patriots need to take a hit. You know, I mean, this is what we need to do. We need to take all these people and companies that are investing in weapons and this genocide and make them have a financial burden. It's got to cost them money. Money is all that this system responds to.
Well, I do really think it's going to be interesting because obviously Columbia and a lot of these college campuses, right? Like last week, we saw they're banning the valedictorian at USC from speaking at the commencement. At UC Berkeley, there was like a law school dinner to, you know, send
Berkeley, center of the 60s revolution.
Yeah, and they pride themselves on that. They market themselves as social justice campuses.
Yeah, it's.
And so now they're going to have to fight against the war. The conflict is now between, not war, the conflict is between their billionaire donors, which all of these people have huge, or all of these institutions have huge donors.
Colleges fully rely on billionaires and mega millionaires.
But if their product that they're selling, which is an education at Columbia or Stanford or USC or whatever, relies on selling that product as a place where students become activists, they change the world, we give them an education, we like to show them how you can rise up and fight systems. And that is now coming into sharp contrast with their donors, who absolutely don't want students to protest or speak out against all of the evils of capitalism and war.
Right.
So what's going to happen?
What we're seeing is the colleges are very beholden to these donors. They're bought, they're purchased, they're captured by capitalism.
Yeah.
And so
they're arresting their students and their professors.
Students are saying, you know what, you're also beholden to our money. We are paying tuition here. Without us and our exorbitant student loans, you can exist because of your donors, but you're not going to make a profit. And
donors
the money train is going to be over for the college.
That's right. Because if it's no longer a compelling institution for kids to apply to and to get the best and the brightest, or however they want to sell it, you're going to start losing some of your donors. right? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they rectify this, because somebody's going to have to give, or they're just going to have to change how they sell their institutions. The other thing,
but these kids aren't going away, and they're going to have a group on every, not every, but a lot of campuses are going to have these groups. And as far as Democrats are concerned, like, this is the biggest of big problems, because they're going to push their but Trump stuff on people, but the kids are not going to let this go. And they're not going to, they push this, just keep your dissent quiet for a little while, let's get past the election, then you can put your tents back up on campus. But you can't tell protesters not to do it now.
Wait,
so they're going to be
6 months when we know that 300 people are being slaughtered every day. Kids are losing limbs. Babies are being born as orphans. 2 days ago, baby born an orphan, because they killed the mother and the father and had to slice the baby out of the mother's belly, born an orphan. Yeah, no, it's not going to end. And I thought this was really interesting. So the president of Colombia is this woman right here, Shafiq. Manoush, I can't remember her first name, but anyway, a short thread. Oh yeah, it's right there. Sorry, Manoush Shafiq. So this was a student who was getting her master's at the same time as the Unite the Right Charlottesville white supremacist rally. That image of the young man on the left, who became sort of like the image of the hatred and the Jews will not replace us.
Right.
There was a protest started at the school where they wanted to get rid of him, but they were told and this was when, sorry, I'm going to go back, because she was the director at this graduate program at the time. There was a protest trying to get rid of him. She said, no, we can't. We don't do background checks on people, and we do have free speech. So doesn't get rid of the person who's screaming, Jews will not replace us, at the Unite the Right rally where Heather Heyer was killed, but is going to lock up her own students and faculty and throw them off campus because they're protesting a genocide.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's really
the hypocrisy is so clear, is the point to it all. It's just, I mean, look, but it's spreading to other schools, and schools are retaliating. So just like with capitalism, when something changes, and it's always a test, like, how do we suppress this? Let's see what happens. So University of Minnesota arresting kids for putting up tents, charging them with trespassing, and banning them from the campus for a year.
I mean,
and we don't have anything on it, but I just remembered that Columbia is now allowing online classes. It's like, oh no,
COVID. They're forcing it.
Yeah, with COVID, we can't. There's no way we can do online options. But now we're back to suddenly, magically, yes, everybody can just take it online.
Yeah. And of course, getting a heavy and it's happening everywhere. Like, the police brutality is happening in universities in southern states, in Western, Midwest, the East Coast, like everywhere it's happening. And of course, the police are coming in and immediately escalating the situation to violence, striking teachers, faculty, students, and arresting people. And then you've got people like Jake Tapper, who's quoting a rabbi who says it's horrific scenes of anti-Semitic harassment. And what they consider anti-Semitic is anybody saying Palestine will be free. That's what they consider anti-Semitic.
And Jake Tapper, critical journalist, ignoring all the facts behind this. When it's pointed out to him, it's not like he doesn't live in a vacuum. Everybody's pointing this stuff out to him.
Talks about the stabbed in the eye thing. Somebody was stabbed in the eye. And
I think we should explain that story in case you haven't seen it. But this person was at was it in Columbia? It was in Columbia.
I think it might have been Yale, but I don't know. I don't know which campus it was. You might be right.
Palestinian protesters were marching through past some pro-Israel Zionist people, and somebody with a flag, the little flag with a little wooden stick
that is rounded at the top.
Yeah, sort of poked into the camera. It's really unclear if any of it was intentional or not.
I mean, now I wish that we were showing the video, even though it's pretty boring, because it's just 45 seconds at the very end. But like, it feels very clearly unintentional. But
right,
go ahead.
I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
There was no like violent stabbing. Like even if it was a poke over there, it had no. There was no possibility of being accurately from that angle poking someone in the eye. So it was just like, at worst, maybe somebody like, let's get my flag in front of the camera or something.
Right. Yeah.
So, and the person wasn't harmed, but she went on all these television shows as some sort of massive stabbing victim.
Yeah.
And the video existed because the video was being recorded for her.
She was recording it. Yeah.
And right. So none of these TV networks showed the video because it would minimize their entire claim as like, this is silly. Yeah. Just like the person with the Jew shirt on. Like, why did they share that video? You look like you look ridiculous. And this would have made her look ridiculous. And Jake Tapper knew it. And they should have shown it. If you're going to have her on, show the video.
Yeah. Nope. They won't do that. And the New York Times obviously doing, the same thing, saying, where's my New York Times one? But just basically any protest is labeled anti-Semitic. They're just going to run with that propaganda in spite of the fact that many of the protesters are Jewish, but they're just not the right kind of Jews. Yeah. Okay, so wait, we just have to show this other video of Shai. Somebody wrote, and it really is true, like he faces the first checkpoint in his life and throws a tantrum. So here he is just losing it. 1 second at Columbia. They don't want to let him in because it's not to go in to teach a class. They know he's going to go in to agitate and escalate and harass students.
My card has been deactivated? Why?
Can you back up, please?
Wait. Whoa. Everybody, my card has been deactivated. This is Cass Holloway, the COO. This is Gerald Lewis. They were in the meeting where I asked them if Hamas is a terror organization, and they couldn't say that it is a terrorist organization. Why? I'm a professor. Why can I?
Shai,
no. Speak out loud so the media.
Shai, we are willing to take you to the math lawn.
No, I am a professor here. Whoa, everybody quiet. I am a professor here. I have every right to be everywhere on campus. You cannot let people that support Hamas on campus and me, a professor, not go on campus. Let me in now.
Let us in.
No.
Let Shai in.
Are you not letting a professor go on?
Let him in. Let him in.
And you know
let Shai in.
No, you're gonna let me. No, you're gonna let me everywhere. Sorry, no, you're gonna let me in any public space on campus. And you know this. If you are not allowed there, then you say that you're not allowed there. I am allowed there. And wait, no, listen to me now. You will listen to me. I rarely listen. I rarely lose my. You know what? I wish you'd let me into my job. We are not okay.
He's such a little toddler. He's like stomping his feet. Like he just cannot imagine he has to follow the rules that anybody else does.
The entitlement there. And you just know this is all like, he's creating a fake moment because the guy is saying, look, we'll walk you over to where you want to go. But really what he wants to do and what everybody knows he's going to do is go be an agitator at the actual pro-Palestine stuff.
Yeah, it's not like they were not going to give him a space. They were giving him a space. Oh, it's so embarrassing. And yes, all of your comments are making me happy because wow, watching a grown man, a professor, calling his students like Nazis. He's saying that they're Nazis.
I mean, if you flip the script and what he said and say about Jewish people, you're gone so quick. You are so gone from teaching.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be allowed. He should be gone. All his capo stuff. Like, come on, this is unacceptable.
Yeah. And he's putting targets on these Jewish students whose
doxing.
names they're malign. Yeah, he's doxing them and calling them Nazis. I mean, like, he really, like, he said something about, this is, you know, here I am, a Jewish professor, not allowed on campus. The last time this happened was during the Holocaust. Yeah. All right.
So
yeah.
I do want to show the video. This is not related to the protest, but it's the cracking down coming on the protest. And, you know, Biden tonight signed the TikTok ban.
Yeah.
We signed the bill, which, you know,
bans TikTok.
It was a lock that TikTok was going to get banned effectively unless they agree to some terms, and we'll see what happens with that. But once they tied it to war funding, it was going to pass because everybody wants war. If you're a Democrat and Republican, you must support the war, or you're not going to win a re-election. You're not going to get handed your comfy job after your term ends. You know, it's all over for you.
Yeah.
So this guy's a Republican, but this could come from a Democrat too.
Oh.
Look what's happening at our college campuses right now in this country. Pro-Hamas activists are taking over public spaces and making it impossible for campuses to operate. Jewish students are being told to leave campus because their universities can't guarantee their safety. There are a lot of other things wrong with this, including the failure to prioritize student safety over appeasement of terrorist sympathizers. But why is this happening? Well, let's look at where young people are getting their news. Nearly a third of adults 18 to 29, these young people in the U.S. are regularly getting their news exclusively from TikTok. Pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas hashtags are generating 50 times the views on TikTok right now, despite the fact that polling shows Americans overwhelmingly support Israel over Hamas. These videos have more reach than the top 10 U.S. news websites combined. This is not coincidence. The Chinese Communist Party is doing this on purpose. They are pushing this racist agenda with the intention of undermining our democratic values. And if you look at what's happening at Columbia University and other campuses across the country right now, they're winning.
I mean, they're not even trying to hide it. They just don't want people to have the information.
So all the information is coming from China, not the actual people reporting in Palestine, not the UNRWA workers, not anybody that actually knows what's going on there. All this sentiment is coming from people that just don't trust CNN is the problem. So we got to get rid of the people that don't trust CNN.
I mean, yeah. When you have Joe Biden on the 100th day of the war, not mention Palestinians once, and at that point, it was into the tens of thousands of people who had been slaughtered. And then now lambasting these protests as anti-Semitic, just blindly accepting it. You have the New York Times always writing that the protests are anti-Semitic, and not only just kids, but also just like Jewish kids know that that's a lie. And they just don't know how to control it. So they're just going to, they're going to keep doing their genocide, and they're going to shut down TikTok. It's a winning, put it on a lawn sign, Biden 2024. And
even this guy, like Lori just mentioned, you know, the way they word it, it's that he's told so many lies there. Like, you know, that the people, even though polls in the US say that the public overwhelmingly supports Israel, newsflash, they don't.
Right.
And regardless,
they certainly don't support giving money. Yeah.
And if you break it down to demographics that are on campus, those people don't support Israel in this. You know, they're overwhelmingly pro-Palestine.
Yep.
And so that's the whole point of it, obviously. I mean, they have to shut down.
Yeah, it's just
they're losing the narrative. And that's the biggest problem politicians have, which is why TikTok's going to get shut down. They're doing everything they can. They might even get one day stop our powerful force here. Censorship. Stop the censorship.
I mean, it's really terrifying, which is why last week they say From the River to the Sea is anti-Semitic. Like, they're just laying the groundwork. There was just another thing where they are defunding or making it easier to defund nonprofit organizations that have any kind of, you know, but like support, what is it? Support of terrorism or support of anti-Semitism? You know, like the wording gets so hazy because that way it can just suit any
right. Well,
group
if you link
want
it
to shut down.
if you ever link anything funding to, if the ADL considers you anti-Semitic, and people for years have thought the ADL is this, you know,
great organization.
Yeah. So, you know, it's easy to find, you could get votes for that because a lot of people aren't informed enough to understand that those claims of anti-Semitism are bullshit. Cause they're like, oh, the ADL says it, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And just saying from the river to the sea or being pro-Palestine is now considered anti-Semitic, an anti-Semitic occurrence by the ADL. So the numbers of anti-Semitism, which incidents have actually grown. Like also nobody's safer when Israel's committing a genocide and Israel insists that Jews are Zionists, right? Like that conflation is anti-Semitic because it's lumping those of us who are absolutely against Zionism and against this genocide in with it. Like they're bringing us all down with their ship, but they've now included anybody who's pro-Palestine or pro, you know, liberation.
And look, naturally, when there's a war, you've got an agitation of both groups involved in the war. So the extremists on both sides are going to increase their worst behavior. So like that in itself is not evidence of a movement by China to influence our kids in a certain direction.
It's like when, I mean, God, this was when I was still kind of on Facebook, but you know, it was like 2016 or like, you know, all of these Bernie messages of Medicare for all and a living wage. That's exactly what, you know, that's Putin's messages, and Bernie's just Putin's puppet. And at a certain point, you're like, well, I don't know if that's what Putin wants for all of us, then go Putin. Like I'm pro Putin then, you know, like if like, it's not lies. It's not that China is, if that's even what it is, which I don't think it is, but like if TikTok were disseminating lies, but you still don't ban it, you combat it with the truth. You do not shut it down. That's what they did with COVID, right? Yeah. Anyway. All right. I know. Anyway, Shai Davidai, worst person of the week.